Hi, folks. So we're about to start reading some creation myths from around the world in our classes in the next couple of days. The purposes of this presentation are to talk about what the definition is of a creation myth and some of the different types and purposes for these stories. Very simply, a creation story is a story that's told by a culture to explain how the world and people and everything on earth came into being. One of the important things to remember is that these stories were sacred to their original cultures. In other words, this was part of people's religions. And these stories often contain archetypes or universal symbols, so you'll see some of the same things from countries all around the globe. Creation stories were told to explain why certain things happened in nature, why animals had certain characteristics, for example, or why we have seasons, or why there's a lightning storm. They also very often taught lessons about human behavior, the kinds of things that we should avoid, the kinds of things that will get us into trouble. And very often they also helped to show the relationship between the creator and the creation, so people kind of understood their place in the world. While creation stories often have a lot of things in common, no matter where you find them on the globe, there are some things that are very specific to the location or the geography. For example, a culture that grew up by the sea would need a lot of stories about fish and water, whereas a culture from the desert wouldn't need to explain those things. As historians have examined creation myths from around the globe, they found about 10 common types, although there are some that don't seem to fit into any of these basic categories, and some contain more than one element. One type are myths that focus entirely on just how the earth was created, and these come from some of the specific countries that you see listed there. Another category of myths talk about the time when the earth and sky were just joined together, and then the myth explains how these came to come apart. Some countries have myths that are actually pretty funny, particularly ones that talk about how the earth and sky were fighting all together and the creator had to separate them apart like kids who got in trouble. Many cultures have a myth that begins with an egg of some kind, and then either the earth is hatched from an egg, or the creator type is born from an egg, or sometimes mankind and all the animals come from eggs. Or sometimes mankind and all of the animals come out of an egg. Many Native American cultures talk about a creature that dives down to the original sea and then brings back all the raw materials to make an earth or to make people. In several cultures, the creator is so powerful that a single word that they speak brings into being all of the elements of the world. In some countries from Africa, the Greeks and the Hebrides, you'll see stories where the sea or the sky and the earth join in a mating or a marriage, and together their union produces all of the other life forms. One common part of creation stories is that the creator often has second thoughts, and mankind is being bad and gets destroyed very often by a flood. And then finally, we have some myths that just don't seem to fit any of the other types. And very often we'll find these in cultures that grew up very separated, like in island cultures and things, very separated from the other parts of the world. So this is the end. Keep your eye out for these various categories of creation myths as we start to read various examples from around the world.